There's 11,000 kids in foster care just in North Carolina. And that's 11,000 kids that could really use a forever home, as they call it. So May is Foster Care Awareness Month. And I thought we ought to do a video to raise awareness for the need for foster care and also to share our story. We were foster parents for, how long were we foster parents?
Right at 12 years.
We live in Raleigh, and the organization that we were associated with is AGAPE of North Carolina. Eventually, we became foster parents, and then I've also done some videos for them. I'll put a link to the videos that I produced with some other families that were foster parents. Probably the one child we had that had the most abuse, maybe when we got, was a little boy, and he had been beaten so bad. He had an eye patch when we got him because his eye wasn't straight. He would at night sometimes scream and yell and stuff like that, and we would just have to hold him and just tell him over and over and over again, "You're okay. You're safe," because he didn't know that.
You had to realize that every situation is different. Every child is going to react differently, and you just have to get to know each one and take them from where they are and help them move on from that and grow in their trust, love, whatever they're needing at the time.
Here's something to know. It's not about you. Now, if you're a parent, you know immediately when you have kids, it really ain't about you anymore. You get into it to share your love with somebody who desperately needs it. Why don't you tell them how we ever even got hooked up with being foster parents? Because it was really your idea.
Tom Slaughter had come to speak at where we were going to church.
Tom Slaughter at that point was the executive director of AGAPE. Okay. I'll interject to fill in the gaps.
He was talking about the need for foster homes in North Carolina. I actually thought about it for a while before I brought it up.
Out of the blue, with no warning, I'm just saying, she says, hey.
I asked if he would be, or what he thought about being foster parents.
Unfortunately, because sometimes I don't filter, I just say, my first thought was like, no. And then I saw, oh, she's not messing around. She really means this.
When I was actually a teenager, there was a family that I went to church with who fostered through AGAPE in Tennessee. They would get infants that were waiting to be placed for adoption, but they would be in the foster home for a month before they were placed. And I always thought that was, a really cool thing. So that's kind of what I had envisioned maybe one day after we had children who were older doing something like that. Then after hearing Tom, it was like, well, maybe we don't wait that long. Maybe it's something we start sooner. So I had thought about it, prayed a lot about it before I even said anything. And then when he said no, I was like, well, maybe that's not the plan. Okay. What else?
We can do a different video on being supportive, guys, when your wife has an idea like that. We actually came up with a list of reasons to be a foster parent and not be a foster parent. And for us, there were more reasons to do it than not to do it. Now, the biggest thing was the fear of, what's it going to be like and what do we do? But I remember we got our first foster baby. And Suzanne's explaining like, okay, well, the baby needs to be fed every few hours and blah, blah, blah. Of course, she knows this, and Suzanne, and I'm like, well, we'll have to set an alarm. I mean, I can't oversleep because I'm a pretty good sleeper. And Lisa and Suzanne looked at each other like, oh, he's got just so much to learn. Keep in mind, this is the first time a baby's ever been in our house around me. So I think when the baby cried at whatever time it was, 1, 2, 3 in the morning, it was like, what the heck is that? We were licensed for kids 0 to 2. I've never seen a 0 because a 0 would technically mean you haven't been born yet.
It's a newborn there.
Well, it's a newborn. It'd be like 1 second to 2 years. We were also open to being called. I think our oldest...
They would call you for any age.
Yeah. Because a lot of times what happens is, if they have a child that needs to be placed immediately, they call, and they call as many families as they can, many foster care families, because the goal is to get that child placed and in as much of a normal setting as possible. I remember the time we got called, though. There were 3 siblings, 3 boys, and the father come in the home and killed the mom and killed himself in front of the kids. And so we get a call. They were like, we got these three boys and we need to place immediately. I mean, they were, I think, at that point in like social services or whoever has them, police department. And we were always told, say no if you can't. Don't ever feel bad about saying, I just can't do it. They didn't want to split the three boys up, which makes sense. I think we just felt like we couldn't do three at the time. So we said no, and it was tough just because we didn't feel like we could take three. But they never made you feel bad. And then sometimes they would call and we'd call them back and say yes, and they'd already placed the child. Their number one goal is to do whatever is best for the child. You know, we always looked at it like whatever we could do for the amount of time this child was in our home, we wanted to just make sure that they were loved and they felt safe. I mean, and those are really the two biggest things that if you're thinking of being a foster parent, make the child feel loved and make the child feel safe. You know, it seemed like one of the most bizarre things that people would say to us, and I know they meant well.
No, I couldn't do that. I would get too attached.
You're gonna get attached. You're supposed to get attached.
They need people that will get attached so they can learn to trust.
Yeah. So, I mean,
because a lot of that's been broken in them before.
Yeah. If you have a fear of getting attached, then don't be a foster parent at all. You need to get attached because they need that. I really, really hope this will encourage you to learn more about foster care. Maybe even become a foster parent. And even if you're single, there are single foster parents too. If you just don't think you can do it, and maybe you can't, support them in other ways, financially. Or just help some families out that are being foster parents, you know, give them a night out or see if they need something. We always had a lot of support. A lot of support. The only reason we got out of it is because our family had grown enough and our little one who has special needs, we just felt like we need to focus on this. We were really more of a foster family. Because I remember at dinner telling Brandon and Ashlyn that we weren't going to be foster parents anymore. And you would have thought we'd have driven to the gates of Disney and said, hey, we're not going, and turned around. They were so upset.
I think that was hard too with them whenever we would have a child and then it was time for them to move on. It was always hard for them to say goodbye.
Yeah.
And then helping them through that. But then soon after, it'd be like, when are we going to get another baby?
If you have any questions about being foster parents or foster care, leave a comment below and more than happy to talk with you about it. Really appreciate you watching. Loved having the wife on here. You loved it, didn't you? Appreciate you. Thanks for watching. Have a great today.